With the addition of William Wallace joining the infantry squad, today I'm going to be updating my infantry tier list for 2024. This is probably the fastest I've ever updated the tier list because we got a new commander that completely changes the priority for infantry. If you guys are new here, this is Gainz Gaming. We make Rise of Kingdoms content. And as a former infantry main, I absolutely love infantry. It is my favorite troop type in the game right now. And so let's dive into the best infantry commanders in 2024. So just as a disclaimer, we are actually going to be using William I as our William Wallace because he is not in the tier maker yet. So when I have William here, that is actually referring to William Wallace, the infantry commander that will be coming in the game within the next couple of weeks or within the next couple of months, depending on when they decide to release him. And to talk about the different rankings here, obviously, S is best and then D is the worst. But as we go here, I will also be talking about the different pairings and kind of move things around. Now, when it comes to investing in the best commander in the game for infantry, and in general, in my opinion, that is still Luce. I don't think that William Wallace is a better commander than Luce. However, I do think he is the second best commander in the game for infantry. That is kind of hard to say because obviously Scipio is one of the best commanders in the game as well. I would definitely put him in the top 5 of total commanders, which is saying something because that means we have 3 of the top 5 commanders in infantry, 1 in archers and 1 in cavalry. If you guys could guess, it's Herman Prime and Joan Prime. Obviously, Prime commanders are absolutely insane. And unfortunately for Cav mains, Belisarius Prime is not in that S category for the best commanders in the game. If you guys want a list on my favorite commanders and the best commanders in my opinion in the game, I can definitely make that video as well. Just let me know in the comments below. So in my opinion, the best way to format your marches is actually to have 2 infantry marches. So I will still be putting Scipio Prime into the S tier. Now, this is for average players, people that are going to be playing 3 to 5 marches. And in my opinion, if you are having 3 to 5 marches, 2 of those should be infantry. I definitely think that Luce William is your number 1 pairing. And then you kind of have some flexibility with your second pairing using Scipio. Now, there are some budget marches you can run with your Scipio that do very well still. And one of those is Scipio and Mehmed. Having a 5-5-1-1 Mehmed is a great pairing with your Scipio while you start investing into other commanders. And that's one thing I definitely recommend for people, whether it's for cavalry or for infantry. You can use Mehmed with Nevsky, you can use him with just about any main commander, and you'll do very well. As long as they're doing skill damage, he will be a great benefit because of his museum buffs. One of the main pairings for Scipio is obviously Guan. So that would be William and Luce. I should probably switch those around. So William, Luce, and Guan Scipio, these being the primaries. Now, the thing is, a lot of people don't really want to invest into Guan, and I did just release a video about Guan and his museum buff. Whether or not that really made him more of a priority to invest into, honestly, I don't really think so at this point. Obviously, William is a much bigger priority, especially Luce being the best commander in the game, in my opinion. But Guan Yu, could you still invest into him today? Sure. Is he the best commander to invest into today? Definitely not. But this is definitely still a very good pairing. Now, I honestly don't really see Guan Yu falling off in the near future, mainly because if we were going to see a new infantry commander with a silence, it would have been William Wallace, and he does not have a silence. Although he does have that rage reduction, which kind of acts as a silence in a way, just not a legit silence, if that makes sense. But Guan Yu Scipio, still a very solid pair, but we have some other options as well. So for the meantime, we'll put Guan in A seed. One other option I do like is Tariq. This is a pairing that a lot of people don't really talk about, mainly because Tariq is a Mightiest Governor commander that a lot of people just don't have. So people haven't really seen this pair used that often because typically people that are doing rallies are rallying and they are not using their Tariq in the open field. However, Tariq is a very good open field commander, especially with your Scipio. And so if you have Tariq and you can run him with Scipio, you'll do very, very well. Another really good option is Sargon. Sargon is fantastic in the open field when paired with Scipio, and you can also pair him with your Guan. So you can kind of choose which one you want to run. If you want to invest into Scipio or invest into Guan, I would definitely recommend you invest into Scipio over Guan, but you can kind of have that choice between the two. Another one that people really do not talk about at all is Harold. Harold with Scipio is fantastic. Now, yes, it is a little bit squishier, but you do so much damage. I use this quite a bit actually when I was using Scipio and Harold and then Guan and Alex. And I honestly really liked it. And I thought that was a really good pairing to run for the open field because I traded really well. People didn't really want to swarm me because it hurt to swarm because, you know, Harold does a little bit of punishing if you decide to swarm him, and you can do a lot of damage in that way. Now, two other commanders that we do need to talk about are going to be Alexander the Great and Gorgo. These are two commanders that you can really put in a lot of different places and still do very well. Like, honestly, you could put Alex with any of these commanders and do really well with it. Obviously, like, it's not meta. Alex is not a meta commander, but he can do very well. And Gorgo is really great paired with Scipio. She's really great paired with Luce. She'll probably be very good paired with William. She is very versatile as well. But again, she's a Mightiest Governor commander, so not as many people are going to have the ability to use her. So when we talk about formatting our top two pairings, I still think William and Luce is the #1 pairing that you should try to stick to. Now that second pairing, this might be a little bit biased simply because I'm going to be running this, but it would be Guan and Scipio. I think that this 2-march setup for infantry is phenomenal, and I don't think you're going to regret having this setup. However, if you don't have Guan and you have one of these commanders, or you have your Mehmed, you can also do that as well with your Scipio. You can kind of play around with that. Now, before we go into 3 pairings, because I do want to talk about that a little bit as well for more infantry mains, I do want to just go ahead and start ranking all these commanders from S to D to kind of talk about like what is even the priority list in terms of total commanders for the open field. We're not going to talk about garrisons, even though we have Xeno on here. She will stay in the D category because you are not going to use her in the open field. Now, I will move my Scipio right back up to S tier, and these are your 3 finalists for the S tier commanders. I'll bring all these back down to D just while we talk about this. So obviously, like I said, these are 3 of the best commanders in the game. I would say 3 of the top 5. #1 being Luce is the best commander for infantry. And then I would say kind of in between William Wallace and Luce being the second best. But I mean, honestly, you can go either one of them being the second best or the third best for infantry. Now for the A seed commanders, I would honestly put Alexander the Great at the first one. So being the #1 commander outside of the top 3, that is going to do very well. And that is honestly very close to having Sargon right there. I was honestly debating between the two. I do think that Alex edges him out a little bit just because the versatility that Alex brings to the table and just being able to put him literally anywhere and do very well, especially with how well he works with Luce. Because if you don't have the heads to invest into William yet, and you don't have Scipio, but you have Luce Alex, perfect. Or if you want to run Scipio Luce, perfect. I mean, Alex is such a versatile commander. You can literally put him anywhere in the field on infantry and do phenomenal. Now, I think there are a couple other commanders that could fit into here. For example, being Guan. I do think that Sargon is a better commander than Guan overall, but Guan is much more of a niche commander, and that is why he is so good. I know I do have him in the S tier category for the open field in pairings, but that is because of his silence. Other than his silence, he is not that great of a commander in my opinion. He doesn't do a lot of damage. He isn't very versatile. It's his silence that gives him the versatility in the game. So that is why I would have him at A. You could argue that he could be in front of Alex and Sargon, but personally, I would put him at #3 in the priority list for infantry as of right now investing into. And that is also because most people already have Alexander the Great expertise at this point if they're in Season of Conquest from using him in KVK2. So that's also why he's #1, because most people already have him expertise. If you don't have him expertise, he moves all the way to the back for the A category. Now going on to B, I think all these commanders could have an argument to go into A, but I don't want to make it too overdrawn in the A tier. So we're going to mix them up a little bit more, basically because they are more niche. And the reason why, because a lot of these commanders are going to be Mightiest Governor commanders. For example, Tariq and Gorgo. I do think these commanders are very good in the open field, and there's definitely a place for them. But just the fact that they are Mightiest Governor commanders makes them much more difficult to use, and they do have more usage for garrisoning or for rallying than they do for the open field. Even though they are viable in the open field, their main role is not open field fighting, which is why I would put them lower on the investment list. Now, I would also put Harold as a B tier category because he's very versatile as well, being able to be used with Scipio and with Alex and do very well in the open field. Even though he is, a very old commander and a lot of people hate Harold, I am a huge fan of Harold. I have done very well with him and I have enjoyed using him. Now, when we get into C tier, these are commanders that you could invest into, but I would definitely advise you not to. And one of those commanders is going to be Pakal. Now, I actually did max Pakal like 2 or 3 KVKs ago out of rage. I think it was 2 KVKs ago because we were fighting, I believe it was 1034, and I could not trade positive for the life of me. And like even city popping, I could not trade positive. And I was on stream, and like Redline was there too. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so frustrating. I just want to max call. And he donated like 20 bucks. He was like, do it. And so I was like, you know what? Screw this. Redline, you want me to do it? I'll do it. So I maxed Pakal that day. And I mean, it was fun. It was, more for the meme than for the benefit. I had a ton of excess gold heads anyway, and I still have like 1,800 gold heads right now, so I'm not hurting for gold heads. If I was at like 100 right now and we have the new commander coming into the game, and then I would be pretty upset about it, but I'm in a good place right now with gold heads. So Pakal, even though it's fun to use him every once in a while, I would definitely recommend not investing into him. But there is obviously some use for him if you do city pop. So, I mean, I was hesitant to even put him in C or keep him in D. But just for the memes, I'm going to put him in C tier for that reason, because I actually did invest into him. And I actually don't regret it too much, because I thought it was fun. And he actually has done somewhat decent in terms of trading, but more so for city popping than anything. Now, I think Pyrus, you could argue that he could be a B tier commander, but simply because he is a gold key commander and typically used more early on, that is why I put him at C tier. And the reason why I'm not keeping him at D tier, because he's a gold key commander, typically I would keep them here for not investing into, like Charles Martel will not move from D tier. But the reason why I put him here is because some people do want to use him in early KVKs. So KVK 1 and 2, they can use him and he'll do very well. This is why Infantry is so good in the early game, is because you have commanders like Pyrus, you have commanders like Charles Martel, and you have commanders like Alexander the Great just dominating in early KVKs. And he is definitely usable in Season of Conquest. People don't realize how good he is with Luce. So if you don't have a space for Luce and you are looking for a commander that you might have expertise from gold keys, I mean, I'm not even close to expertising him from gold keys, so maybe you're a whale and you have him, but maybe you've also invested in him in early KVKs and you can use him with Luce and do very well. So that's why I put him in C tier, because people do like using him in early KVKs and investing early on. So that is the reason why for him being in C tier. Now, the next commander I'd put here is Flavius. Flavius is kind of similar to Gorgo and Tariq, but just not as good in the open field. I personally would not invest into him, but if you're wanting a commander that you can use in the open field and protect your city, he is a good commander, similar to Gorgo, but he has a little bit less viability in the open field in my opinion. And I've also seen some pretty good reports using him with Trajan, which I never really thought of doing that, but I've seen some good reports with that and people talk about it like it's really good. So that could be another option for Flavius as well. Now, I would say the last commander I would elevate to C tier is CJ. And CJ, he is a very, very niche commander. And the reason why I'm hesitant to put him here is because every single person that I know that is expertise CJ has regretted it. Maybe one or two people are like, yeah, he's okay. I mean, it's not horrible, but I wish I wouldn't have done it. Like pretty much everyone has regretted it in some capacity, but some people also say like, yeah, he's decent. I mean, you can run him and he'll do decent, but he's not like, Scipio or Luce or William, but he's a commander you could look at investing into if you are an infantry main, because, when you're an infantry main, you kind of run out of options for your marches, and CJ is just one of those commanders that's there, so you might as well invest into him. Now, one commander I was debating on elevating to C tier is Leonidas, and that is because of his new museum buff, because Leo's museum buff is going to give him an extra 5% infantry march speed, and also a 5% reduction in normal damage for the enemy, but I don't think that's enough to put him as a C tier, because I don't think he's worth investing into, because if you are going to invest into Guan, you have to use him with either Sargon or with Scipio. Primarily with Scipio, secondarily with Sargon. So this is what I would say is the priority list for infantry in 2024. The main ones I think that you could mix around would be Guan and Sargon. If your goal is to run 2 infantry marches, then you could go Guan, Scipio instead of Sargon and Scipio. So that's kind of, personal preference in that case. But this is what I would say is the investment guide for infantry. Now, when we talk about the other pairings for infantry mains, this is for people, that are going to be running 3+ marches for infantry, which is very few, which is why I wanted to wait toward the end and not, take up too much at the beginning on this. When we look at running 3+ marches, obviously there aren't a ton of commanders to choose from. Like we have 18 commanders here, 17 if you don't include William because he's not in the game yet, but we will use this as an assumption that he is in the game just because, we have the information for him. And we also have a new Mighty's Governor commander that has not yet been released. So that will come here soon as well. And I might have to update this again, depending on how good he is in the open field. But when we are looking at 3 pairs, obviously the same pairings, in my opinion, are going to apply, running with William and Luce and running with Guan and Scipio. Now, you have a little bit more flexibility here. You can break these up a little bit, and obviously, like, you have a lot of choices. But I think some of the commanders you can consider adding into the mix are going to be Gorgo, Alexander the Great, and Sargon. I don't think these commanders fit as well into a 3-pair lineup. Now, with these commanders, obviously you have 7 choices and only 6 can be chosen. So there are going to be a couple different options you can run. I'll go over a couple of them and you can kind of choose which ones you want to go for. Because obviously 6 of these commanders are wheel commanders and 1 is a Mightiest Governor commander. So take that information as you will. When we're talking about running 3 pairings, this is what I would personally run and what I would recommend. I would personally break up William and Luce. I know that's crazy, but I would switch out Luce with Scipio. So that way you're able to bring up Alexander the Great with your Luce, and then you're going to bring up your Sargon with Guan Yu. And so you're going to be running William and Scipio, or Scipio William. I think William primary is going to be better. And then you're going to be running Luce and Alex, and then Guan Yu and Sargon. I think this is your best 3-pair lineup for your infantry. Now, when it comes to 4 marches, I think you have 2 different options that a lot of people don't really even consider. And one of those options being Gorgo and Pyrrhus. I don't even know if I'm saying Pyrrhus right. If I'm not, let me know down below because I feel like I'm probably butchering that. But this is one option, and one other option that I have seen that actually has done really well in testing is CJ and Harold. And that one, I feel like people are going to like give me so much crap about, but I mean, reports don't lie. I have seen this used and I've seen it do very, very well. It would definitely want to be my top choice, obviously, because it's like my last one I can think of, but Gorgo Virus could also do very well in the open field. It's not my favorite. Again, I think that 3 is the absolute most marches I would put on the open field. I mean, putting 4 on there, I feel like is just, wasting gold heads. Cause like at that point, why not just invest into 1 cav and 1 archer? Why are you trying to do 4? Very few people, if anybody, should be trying to do 4 marches. And one thing you also could just do is a good old Pakal Herald. I mean, that's going to do probably just as well. So obviously, I don't recommend doing 4 infantry marches, but there's a couple of things you can kind of play around with if you are trying to go full infantry, which again, I would strongly advise you not to do. Plus, you could also bring in commanders such as Honda or such as Mehmed and kind of bring those into the mix because obviously they are not infantry commanders, but they can be used with infantry commanders and still do very well. So there's a couple things you can kind of play around with these other commanders that can be used to benefit your other marches. Let me know what you guys think down below about this list, about the tier list, and what you would change if you would change anything, or what your favorite infantry commanders are. Let me know down below also if you're planning on maxing William. I personally am planning on maxing William whenever he comes into the game. We will most likely be in KVK. Hopefully before Kingsland, I will be able to invest into him and max him for Kingsland. I think that would be absolutely amazing because we are heading into KVK here very, very shortly. We are currently in pre-KVK right now. I am on a farm account, I just realized, but we are in pre-KVK. If I look, we are currently in 5th place for pre-KVK. We just hit reset, so obviously we have a little bit of ways to go, another 24 hours, and then 4 extra days before KVK actually starts. But hopefully we'll have a good KVK fight. I'm excited for it. I think we definitely will have a pretty good fight. The matchmaking is pretty even, so I'll probably be making a preview video for our KVK to kind of introduce everything and then kind of show my initial stats as well going into KVK. But if you guys enjoyed the video, do me a favor, drop a like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Have a great rest of your day.